Hello everyone, my name is Sergey, and 2 years ago I had no idea that the Commander format existed in Magic the Gathering. And I was happy. But then I got some Commander decks, started going out more often, and contrary to the satirical setup of this sentence, I became even happier. But things could have been even better if I hadn't made a number of mistakes. Today I want to share with you a few thoughts on deck building, collecting, and gameplay that I wish I had known 2 years ago when I started playing Magic. I'm recording this video for those of you who are about to dive into the Commander format, whether it's because of your friends, co-workers, or the advertising for the new Final Fantasy set. Most likely your journey into Magic began with a precon. Let's use this as our starting point for getting into the game. So, the first piece of advice I wish I had received 2 years ago: don't listen to upgrade guides for precons right after you buy one. You've watched a deck review. Maybe you watched some gameplay with someone piloting the deck on YouTube, got inspired, went out and bought the box, sleeved up the cards, and immediately started watching YouTube videos where the creator suggests swapping out the commander for an alternative or taking out 10 cards and replacing them with others. It seems like reputable people are making these recommendations, and I did the same. For me, it was the Esper Precon from Warhammer 40,000 and a video with advice from the reputable channel Command Zone. Don't get me wrong, I respect their work and their creativity, which draws in newcomers, but when it comes to upgrading certain precons, there can easily be mistakes and disappointments. The realization that this was bad advice came a year later, when I restored the precon to its original state, and by then I already had a year of experience playing Esper Control in competitive Commander. I understood how this precon was meant to be played from the start. And it played brilliantly, with the main commander during opponents' turns relying on expensive answers and board wipes. The Empire does not make the first move. The Empire waits and responds until the opponents are exhausted. And we won't have an army on the board that will be empowered by our commander and wipe out all enemy ranks. If you bought a precon, play with it. Don't rush to change commanders or stuff it with upgrades. Don't! Play and play again. Play enough to see every card in action, study their real impact, and figure out whether you like each card or not. After making your own list of good and bad cards, you can then go online and watch upgrade videos. And at that point, you'll be able to critically evaluate the recommendations from major channels. And maybe you'll find some awesome cards there. Or maybe you'll realize that the cards you picked out yourself are actually better. The second piece of advice I want to give you, for anyone planning to get into Magic in the Commander format, guys, start upgrading any deck by working on the mana base. A good mana base will give you a 1 or 2 turn advantage. If you've ever found yourself thinking, if only I had one more turn I would have won, that might be a direct indication that the state of your mana base is disappointing. Tapped lands that don't provide mana on the first, second, third, fourth turn, or at the crucial moment later on. That's exactly that one incomplete turn that kept you from making the decisive push for victory. Playing with a non-optimized mana base is like racing, but having to constantly pull your car into the pit stop to refuel. I'll release a video about mana bases later, but for now, just keep this in mind. Before you decide to splurge on any other upgrades in the form of specific powerful spells, make sure your mana base can actually support them. I came to this conclusion within my first year. You have the chance to figure it out even faster. Here, you just have to trust me. It's hard, I get it. The mana base doesn't look like the most exciting part of the game, but it's exactly what allows your deck to maintain a high speed. So, remember, the mana base gets upgraded first. Besides, your mana base will come in handy for your other decks as well. If you change your commanders or the spells inside but stay within the same colors, you just swap out the mana base, which is already good and assembled, and you can feel confident moving forward. Third, don't ruin your deck building experience by copying someone's list from the internet without any explanations. You can go to Moxfield or Architect, find a deck built around a commander you're interested in, copy it, and end up failing. Personally, I haven't fallen into this trap, but I've often seen my friends download deck lists, even buy decks, put them together, play for one evening, and then disappointed take them apart. Other people's deck lists without explanations of what's in the deck, why it's there, and why these specific cards. That's a road to nowhere. It gets especially difficult if the deck contains tutors or combos. Tutors are cards that can find you other cards in your deck, adding structure. Combos are cards with high synergy that can perhaps win you the game outright. But assembling a combo or finding something in the deck, you might not know how to do it. You might not even recognize a combo simply because you've never seen it before. Any experienced pilot can tell you everything about their deck. Why a particular card or spell is included, what they will search for if a certain situation arises with a tutor, which opening hand to keep, and much more. I could talk about my decks for hours. Why did I use certain cards? But that's another story. Once again, don't ruin your deck building experience by copying someone else's list from the internet. That's someone else's mind, someone else's thoughts, and someone else's understanding of the cards. You need to develop your own. Tip number 4. Start developing your observational skills during games. Don't rush to play everything from your hand just because you have the mana to throw cards onto the table. Games have a script and a tempo. Most often it looks something like this. On turns 1 to 3, players ramp up their mana and play their commanders and engines to draw cards or generate mana. On turns 4 to 6, powerful plays start happening on one side, and other players have to respond to one or more threats. This is the phase when players will lose resources due to board wipes or targeted removal. If the players fail to deal with the threat, the game might end right here. But if they manage to handle it, then on turns 6 to 7, players will once again be building up engines and resources, and will return to this stage. Someone might run out of steam. For example, an early strategy with a low mana curve could have a lot of mana by turn 6 or 7, but be left with no cards because everything was played out earlier and is now in the graveyard. Meanwhile, those who held back and didn't put everything they had onto the board on their turn now have an opportunity to try to win because they still have spells left. If the players and decks at the table are fairly evenly matched, it can happen that each deck will keep trying to find its own window of opportunity every time. Such an attempt can be stopped. One of these matches I played lasted 3.5 hours. My last opponent ran out of cards in their library, and I won because they decked out. But every player at the table agreed that it was a very interesting game. There was always an answer to any attempt to win, and there was always fuel to keep going. Your task in every game is to keep track of this tempo. Later, you'll be able to adapt to it and avoid playing creatures when you sense a board wipe is coming. Maybe you even have it in your hand so you know exactly when it's coming, but you can also sense a board wipe in your opponent's hand. Or, when you're in the lead, you might cast a minor spell first, which immediately gets countered because they're trying to stop you. You might get a little upset, but then you play your winning spell and there are no counters left for it. In conclusion, I'll suggest this strategy to you for any precon. If you have a new precon, don't go searching the internet for other people's opinions on how to improve the deck. Play more to understand which cards within the deck interact with each other and how. Try to figure out what's missing. Check whether everything is alright with card draw, ramp, and interactions. And when you know what every spell in the deck does, only then should you start looking for alternatives. The first upgrade worth doing is the mono base upgrade. The deck will become faster by 1 or 2 turns, which can change your perception of its power. And finally, in every match, try to sense the rhythm. Development, threat, board wipe, development, threat, board wipe. Once you start to really feel this rhythm, you'll sometimes be able to predict your opponent's actions, which will lead you to victory. If you've listened this far, subscribe to the channel. I'll share a lot more interesting things with you. This was Sergey with you. See you next time. Bye, and thanks for watching.